Hello there, my name's Ian Stars. I've been Product Director at Axminster Tool Centre for probably over 40 years now. And I'm going to, with my nephew Tim, introduce a number of new machines which we've added to the new trade range of Axminster woodworking machinery. The first machine we're going to look at is the new model, the 615, a machine that I think we're both very proud of, and it's got a lot of features which we have admired actually by comparing it to a lot of other machines that are on the market. It's 195 kilos, so it's a big chunky machine. It's a 2.2 kilowatt motor, that's roughly 3 horsepower in the best mode. It just has the one single speed. We're running at just over about 1,000 meters per minute there. And it's got good capacities. The capacity without the fence on is roughly about 370. With the fence on, we're around about 320 that way, and 350 up. That's a good
huge
size.
Depth of cut.
Yeah, a good depth of cut. The fence, I think, is a little unique. It's one which has been copied from a lot of the table saws which have been around for a long time. It's fully adjustable. Tim, perhaps if you can just show us a highlight to us.
Yeah, the fence is beautiful, lovely and smooth, left and right, but also once locked with the Bristol lock handle is rock solid. It's fully adjustable. At the back here we can get it perfectly parallel to the blade, and also we've got the ones on top here to make it perfectly square to the table. The fence is aluminium extrusion, but it's also being machined on its surface as well, so it's perfectly flat, and you can see it now in its high position. So if you're cutting deep veneers to its full capacity, you've got a lot of support there for the wood. But then if you want to do some thin pieces, you can turn the fence down, and it means you can get your blade guides above the cut to be a perfect setup. And yeah, just rock solid and ultra smooth, really nice.
This type of fence has been very popular on a lot of saws from American table saws, and you know, they're projecting much longer than this fence, which is probably around about the 600 millimeters long, but it's a proven design, and I think works well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's perfect for a bandsaw, the high and low position. It's just what you need with something of this much capacity.
I would just point out that these are our very latest diamond cut ground blades. Bandsaw blades have always been milled, which seems daft to me because it doesn't seem very sharp. These have been milled, then diamond ground and hardened.
Yeah. And so they last longer and give you a cleaner cut.
Well, I think they're just from the start, by being diamond ground, you can feel just how much sharper they are.
Sure.
But slightly different steel, and they are specifically straightened for best use on a high performance machine like this. Opening up the two doors, cast iron and wheels, which we really like, and these are very, very well balanced. I think the beauty of the lack of vibration in this machine is because both wheels are so finely balanced. To the rear, we've got a tension device which takes the tension on and off, so it releases the tension on the blade
quickly.
A lot of people come from the school that you should take tension off of a bandsaw blade. I'm undecided about that, but
if you're going to leave it for a long time, possibly.
I'm not certain you can stretch a steel band like that. But your maximum tension, and the tension indicator is actually on the back of the blade, but nice sturdy fitments, and you can see then that with just the one lever we're able to.
Also, the frame's got all its struts. It's supporting the tension of the blade.
The top of the frame is very rigid in relation to the bottom of the table, and the table, I think, is equally rigid as well. It sits on two well-sized trunnions, and that makes for a good rigidity.
Good support. I mean, it's important those trunnions are very wide as well, because it's got a big table, so it's important that you give that table support.
So you have a trunnion here and a trunnion there coming up underneath the table. The table, an interesting one, finely ground, a very precise table. It's yellow coating.
So that's titanium nitride. So the beauty of that is it's low friction, so it glides across, the work glides across nice, and also it helps resist to corrosion, or if you're in a damp workshop. Often with a bandsaw, the wood might be a little bit damper if it's a primary cutting tool, so less chance of getting rust marks or corrosion on the table.
titanium nitride is a ceramic coating which is put onto cutting tools, and is very hard, but it's known as a lubricant, so you should always have free running there. The table insert has 4 individual screws, so you can get it just right, and it has a quick action, so you can change it very quickly.
So you can just twist that little, and that gives you good access when you're setting your guides to your blade.
And also, when you're changing the blade, the split table has this beautiful clamp, and I really like this because so often that's overlooked. This means to say we get a perfectly level surface between the two, though. One thing you will notice with the bandsaw is it has a braked motor. And brake motors can sometimes cause a little bit of a problem, but this is a manual, a physical brake, not an electronic brake. 3 positions, so we can turn the brake on, we can turn the brake off, and we can turn the brake to run. One of the other things which I think is a great feature of this machine is the foot stop stroke brake. This is a brake which runs on a brake shoe on the lower wheel. And when you're cutting, I think it's very important to be able to stop the machine without removing both hands from the work if needed. So as you press that down, it cuts the motor, the brake comes in, and you've got a manual shoe which you can see, which operates just here against the drum of the brake. Wire brushes on there, and there's a little insert which you need to make to optimize the dust extraction when you come. 2 4-inch outlets.
Yep. So one right below it where it needs to be, right under the table after the cut, and then one anything that falls through, you can collect from the bottom.
So really, you're picking up every little bit of dust.
I mean, extraction is so important. Like, you know, you've got to maintain the machine, and you do not want to be getting compact sawdust on the wheel, because that can put the machine out of balance.
Finally, when we come to look at the machine, one of the things which you're always looking at is blade guide mechanism. This one here has a roller which sits behind the blade and runs in the correct way that a roller is intended to, not across the face of the roller. If you do the physics on that, the mechanics on that, you'll see that you're always going to be failing.
And it's also got the groove in the middle of the bearing, hasn't it?
Which so you can just finely adjust it, nip the bearings up, and both top and bottom blade guides are very easy to adjust.
And completely toolless, so you don't need to be getting your...
Yeah, I think one of the things which our new trade range offers is the rise and fall is always nice and smooth, very easy to do.
Yeah.
A machine which I have to say would complement any a workshop, specifically a trade workshop, and I think it's going to be a good all-round, very, very popular machine. Not the cheapest machine, but you know, you get what you pay for, and you know, we do like our quality machines. The next machine we're going to look at is the new Spindle Motor. This is a relatively basic spindle molder, and I think sometimes we make machines way too complicated. So a standard 30mm spindle with a 140mm rise and fall. There are 4 speeds, 1400 RPM up to 9000, so it can be used with a router cutter collet if you want to, and really most spindle tooling. The bottom speed is used for a sanding, so at 1400 RPM. If you've got a drum sander you want to put on there, that can be easily accommodated. Setting the machine is very straightforward, nothing complicated, but what I do like is the very solid aluminium horseshoe guard here. Everything's fully adjustable. You've got independently adjustable fences there with a 40mm of offset between each fence.
Yeah.
Each fence is an aluminium extrusion which has been machined and is secured back to the main fence there. They are very straight, which is all important when you're doing some accurate machining, especially on windows and door sections there. The sliding table can be locked in place and used as a table extension, or alternatively as a very generous sliding table. So if you're cutting panels for a door, you've got more than enough capacity. I mean, I think if that would exceed anyone else's expectation.
There's no movement there on its...
No, and again, it has throughout the whole of the sliding table a lot of adjustment there. It uses a very fine Gates ultra high performance belt which is a very efficient way of running a V-belt as opposed to a poly V-belt, so the power transmission's good. I like the fact that the switch and all the control gear is elevated up. It has no tilt to it. That's on our more expensive machine, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But I must say that rising and falling the machine is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
The mechanics behind the mechanism are first class, and in certain instances gas strut assisted. I don't think this one is, but when we look at the fine detail of the machine, it's got to be in the table. Beautiful castings, and I think a machine that would grace anyone's workshop and last for a good many years. It's a trade machine. It's not industrial. A trade machine for somebody who's producing small batches of windows, mouldings. I think a lot of people have been using routers just recently, inverted routers. And we're going to try and get people to use the spindle moulder. It's very cost efficient, it's safer, it's easier, quicker to use. And if you're running out reasonable lengths of moulding, I've got to say it's always my favourite machine over and above a router.
Yeah. Included is this fence which locks onto the sliding carriage. Now this is essential for when doing end grain.
So very solid. I can't tell you how solid the hold down clamp there is. That they normally tend to flex.
A little bit overkill sometimes.
Yeah, I think that probably was invented in Victorian times, and they've cast it over. The next machine I'd like to talk to you about is the Gyro G700. It's called a dust processor. A very solid machine. It weighs just as much as the bandsaw. Now, you know, when I went to move the bandsaw, 190 kilos of bandsaw, you know, there's a lot of steel in that, both in the cast iron of the table, but a lot of steel in its fabrication. Yeah. And likewise with this, it has a very generous motor with it, and produces an amazing amount of extraction. So we can run it either with the 6-inch outlet without the reducer, or we can run it on twin 4-inch outlets. The airflow with the in a 6-inch ducting gives us 1900 cubic meters per hour, and that's quite a significant amount of airflow. If we reduce it down to the 4-inch, we're talking around about 1200 cubic meters per hour. But that's backed up by the pressure which it can produce. 4,000 pascals, PAs. That's 1 pascal is 0.1 of a kilo against a square meter. Doesn't sound much pressure. Multiply that up by 4,000 and over that distance there. That's a lot of suction there. You have a 3-phase motor actually in here, and it's run through an inverter, so it's 1.5 kilowatts of power and variable speed. It's quite remarkable in it. It's a low noise device. So this machine at full running is 61 decibels, which is something in the region of 9 decibels quieter than a bandsaw. That's quite considerable. These are known to drone on rather. The filters, you've got 7 meters cubed, 7 meters squared of a total filter area. Yeah. And you know, if we put that out as sailcloth, that's a fair amount of that. The beauty of these filters that they can be very simply cleaned, as you were just doing.
Little and often, keep them clean to get the most performance out of the filters.
The waste is 120 litres of waste. I think this is substantial to say the least. Now, if you're going to run this with a high volume waste producer, such as a planer thickener, you'd need an interceptor.
This is really for fine dust, very fine dust, or.
So the 2 boxes do exactly as Tim's just said. Ultra fine dust in the far one, and very fine dust particles in the main one. It comes with a bag, so you can take the bags out, and these will really extract nearly everything which any machine's going to throw at it. You can leave the machine just running without,
and it will filter.
And it will filter the air. So it really genuinely is
quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, you said about the weight. I mean, even though it's very heavy, it's very portable because it's...
Yeah, you can move it
all
around.
on
It's on
wheels.
casters. But 194 kilos, if you're going to move it around with a forklift, there's got lifting eyes on
Yeah.
it. And you have 2 cyclones as well, which interestingly you can look through the portholes and to see how it's working.
Yeah, because before, I mean, normally cyclones are very tall
Yeah.
machines, and you need quite a tall workshop to put them in. So this is very compact.
I think we've all become very much more aware of the cyclonic filtration from devices which can be used in the home to devices which we use in the workshop. These 3 trade machines are just the start of the upgrade to our whole trade program. A lot of the machines we have coming through in the trade range are going to be ideally suited for sort of fairly active trade users.
Yeah.
We don't call them production machines. These are machines that are going to be used in a workshop up to about 8-10 people. This machine specifically, I think, has got a lot of use potentially in workshops that universities, colleges, where they really are looking for an ultra clean
Multi-materials as well,
environment.
isn't it? Yeah.
Multi-materials. So very, very good. If you're sanding anything which is slightly dangerous or very, very fine particle, then this really is the machine for you. All of these machines are normal ring main compatible.
Yeah.
So
Not three-phase
this machine and this machine here would use a 16 amp blue plug, whereas this one here actually comes with a conventional
13.
plug top. 1.5 horsepower, 1.5 kilowatts, 2.2 kilowatts, 2.2 kilowatts. I think just the final conclusion on the Spindle Motor, 294 kilos of pure machine there, so very, very solid. I'm pleased after 40 years that we should see machines like this coming with our name and brand on. I think the trade audience, our trade customer, is very much the Axminster customer. I hope that if you get an opportunity to go to one of our stores, that you'll pop in and have a look. We'll be doing a lot more videos looking at the machines in their entirety and in much greater detail as individual machines, both in use and how to get the best out of them. Go pop in store, have a look, see what you think. I think you'll be equally as impressed as we are. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.